MetroCasting. I'm Doug Farley. We have a very special guest. Jim Doyle is here, and he's a radio icon from the area, Mr. Sports in Columbia County, I would say.
Wow, icon is a little strong.
I like the word icon. A lot of people in this area know who you are.
If icon means you've been around for a long time, yes.
And it works for you, right? He's been around so long, he's written a book about all the things he's been doing over the years. We should say that you and I worked together for a number of years, and we do see each other at sporting events. And what brought you to write a book, which is, by the way, called The Best Seat in the House, which you always have. So what brought you to write this book?
Well, about, I would say 10 years ago, I started putting stories that I thought were good stories in a folder. And I thought maybe someday. You know, we used to joke, my broadcasting partners and I, on road trips, and well, that was one for the book. That was one for the book. I thought, you know, maybe, maybe. So last spring, I got serious, putting those stories together and weaving them into a book, and got it done in late November.
Okay. So the writing process, what, 6, 7 months, 8 months?
Yeah, approximately.
That's short compared to some of the other folks.
I don't know how other authors do it, but I'm not a good typist. So a good friend of mine, former student I had at Southern Columbia, Linda Hamadi, she did the typing. What I did is I wrote everything down on a legal pad, longhand, then put it on cassette. How about that, cassette?
Yeah, cassette. That's what we're used to.
Sent the cassettes to her, and she typed it. So it's probably not the usual way, but it worked.
I'm sure it works out fine like that. They transcribe, basically.
Yes.
That's nice. And it's published by iUniverse.
Right.
And did they come back with you and say, you need to fix this, do that? How do they edit?
Well, the nice thing about self-publishing is the fact that you can take advice, but you don't have to.
Right.
So they made some suggestions that I followed. They made other suggestions that I didn't. Right. But I'm paying them to put this book out, so I can do what I want.
That's true, too.
Yeah.
Because you reminded me you were an English teacher for a number of years as well. That, you know, grammar, I kind of know grammar.
Yes. So there weren't many issues, if any.
That's amazing. What's in this book?
Well, it's I decided to put it into chapters by theme. The first chapter is called The Beginning, pretty creative on my part, but just how I got started.
Right.
And actually I got started when I was in junior high school in Berwick, and it goes through the whole thing where I went and how I ended up where I am. And then there's another chapter on character and characters. People with great character and people who are just characters.
Right.
So people I've met along the way. And so every chapter has a theme. One chapter is on strictly broadcasting disasters, things that went terribly wrong.
Right.
And unfortunately, there was plenty of material. That chapter, that chapter flowed.
You're in business, things are going to go wrong, right?
And then another chapter with what I consider to be the best games that I ever covered. So every chapter a different theme. There's eight chapters altogether.
A lot of name dropping in here.
Yeah, because obviously with the characters situation, I talk about the people that write about the people that I've worked with the most.
Right.
Like George Curry, Danny Hale, Jim Roth, coaches, players, fans, sports information directors, everybody.
Did you check with them before you published something about them?
No.
Okay.
But
they may not be friends anymore.
But I did enough editing. I mean, there's some stories that are great stories that are not in the book.
Okay. we put the good ones in, but not too good.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Well, you've been doing this for how many years now, sports-wise?
48.
48 years he's been involved with sports in this area. And he doesn't look a day over 32, so in his own mind anyway. So.
Yeah, I was a junior in high school, and I lived in Berwick, and I went downtown to what was then WBRX.
Okay.
And said, I want to do sports, but I'll be willing to do anything. And I did do anything for the 2 years that I was there.
Right.
Joseph Jiggs DePasquale, who passed away unfortunately a couple years ago, he was doing the sports, and so he took me under his wing. And we were a daytime station, so the Berwick night games were a little issue.
Right.
So we used to go to the games, tape them on cassette, and then play them back the next day. I used to laugh because Jiggs would pull up in his big car to the front gate of the stadium. He says, can we get close to the press box? We have some equipment here. And the three of us, my friend Brian and Jiggs and I would get out of the car with a cassette player about that big.
So heavy. I don't know if I can handle some of the steps.
That's why we needed that.
You all took turns carrying it, by the way.
But it was a great place to start.
Right.
A great place to start. I mean, your mistakes were forgiven.
Right.
There were minimal listeners.
Well, and the thing is, all these people that we see today that are big names, they all have to learn the craft somehow.
Right.
And you can't just come on. Nobody goes on the air immediately.
Right.
And it's wonderful. It just doesn't happen. You have to learn your skill and your.
And Brian Bauer and I, we were same year in high school. We did everything at the station. We did the news, the sports, the weather, played the music, cleaned the place, and there were just three of us, three on-air people. There was at one point there was the guy who ran the show, and Brian and I. And how pretentious was he who put signs on the wall saying "to all staff"? Well, geez, just tell us.
Just come over and say hi.
Yeah, just the two of us.
Smaller stations were like that.
But it was fun, and when I went to what was then Bloomsburg State College, I figured the logical move would be to go to the station there, which was WHLM. Tom Austin was doing all the sports at the time, and again, he was a great help along the way. And then a couple of years after that, I think it was 1976, Tom left to pursue other interests, and I took over.
You took over and doing all the games, and since you have become the voice of the Berwick Bulldogs as well as Bloomsburg University Huskies.
Yes.
What does that mean to you?
Oh, it means a lot. It means a lot. I mean, I would be doing this regardless of how successful the teams that I cover would be. But to have the privilege of following Berwick and Bloomsburg University, particularly in football, the way those two programs have gone, and then we've covered every Southern Columbia State Championship game as well. So, I mean, I've been blessed to carry games of importance, follow teams that are very successful, and deal with some great coaches.
You have been covering two of the arguably best coaches in the United States, Jim Roth and George Curry. They win no matter what. So what do you know about them that makes them such winners?
Well, they're very, very different people. I mean, George is very much outgoing, and Jim is very laid back, but they both have the passion for the sport. Neither one thinks they invented the sport. Both of them are willing to listen, willing to learn. I mean, George, for instance, became a great quarterbacks coach. He wasn't a quarterback at any level. He just learned. He asked, he questioned, he watched film. Jim, the same thing. I mean, he's just, Jim is extremely organized. What they've accomplished is amazing, both of them. Somebody figured out if Jim Roth coaches 28 more years and loses every single game, his record would be 500.
Wow.
To just put it in perspective. I mean, you look at the numbers, you say, well, that's a pretty good record, but then you put it in those numbers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
And you have been fortunate enough to be able to cover both of these coaches and these teams over the years.
Absolutely.
Curry, in fact, almost from the very beginning.
Yes. When George came in 1971, we were doing just some games, and I wasn't really that involved. From 76 on to about 87, we were doing most Berwick games, and then 88 was the first year that we decided to do the whole schedule, and what a great year to start. It was the first year of the state playoffs. It was the undefeated season in the state championship game with Jake Kelchner and Lance Savina and that crew. And they beat Aliquippa, which ironically Southern Columbia beat this year for the state final. So it was a great run.
Kelchner takes the snap, rolls right, pump fake, looking for a beat in the end zone, a touchdown!
Back to this book and some of the stories now. How much of stories concerning these games we've been talking about are in this book?
Well, I chose 10 games. That was probably the most difficult part, the 10 games, but 10 that were the most memorable to me, not necessarily, because it's very, very subjective. In fact, after we did Southern Columbia's 56-50 win over Montoursville in the district final this year, I thought, boy, I wasn't thinking of a sequel, but maybe that would have to go in the top 10. But yeah, so some amazing games. One of my favorites, Bloomsburg University in the year 2000 is playing at Cal Davis, which is close to Sacramento. And they are as big an underdog as maybe a Bloomsburg University team has ever had. Cal Davis was ranked #1 in the nation. They were just a very, very good team. They were on their way to the national finals. This was the semifinal. Bloomsburg's playing at their place, 3,000 miles from home, and after the third quarter, Bloomsburg's behind by 19. So it was going just about the way everyone expected it would be. And then that final quarter, I don't know what's more amazing to me, the fact that Bloomsburg held them to no points after giving up 48 points in the first 3 quarters, or the fact that Bloomsburg scored 29 in 1 quarter. It was just an amazing game. It was one of those when the game ends, you think, did I really see that?
Do you think it was just a motivation factor that came back to him?
I have no idea. I always admired Danny Hale, the coach of the Huskies, for so many reasons, and I really admired his honesty after the game. In the press conference, they asked him, well, what'd you think after the third quarter? He said, I thought maybe we're going to get embarrassed. Yeah. It was going the other way. Cal Davis scored on a fumble recovery in the last play of the third quarter, so the score, all the momentum, everything.
It's an amazing thing.
Yeah. And then just a couple of years ago, 2011, Bloomsburg's playing at Westchester, and they're behind 35-0. And I'm thinking, boy,
This game can't get over
I need an adult beverage.
Yeah.
And they come back, and it turns out to be the biggest comeback in the history of college football. I mean, they won it handily, actually, 55-42.
Wow.
And again, there are people that have probably done what I do as long as I have, but I don't know if anyone's had the fortune to be witness to such events.
On a different note, as a sportscaster, do you have personal favorite teams? I mean, you can't, obviously, when you're broadcasting, play favorites. You got to play both sides.
Yeah.
That's the way you're supposed to do it. Although I've been hearing some stuff lately, I'm like, no. Anyway, you're supposed to be objective about that. But personally, you have your own favorite teams.
You mean on the national level?
On a national, because we don't want to go local. Cause
Right. Well, actually, when I'm doing a Southern Columbia game, I want them to win. I want Berwick. I want the team that we're covering to win. But like you said, I try not to have that come out in the broadcast. In fact, I do have one chapter I call Inside Stuff, where I give my opinions on what is good broadcasting, what isn't. And one of the things that I have is we never use the word we. We never use the word, well, we need a first down, or we this, because I'm not the team.
Right.
You know, even if I'm close to the team, even if I go to the practices, which I do, even though I know the coaches well, which I do, it's just, first of all, it sounds like you're a homer when you use we. And second of all, I don't have the right to use the word we.
Right.
You know, I'm not working out. I'm not going through the practices.
You're a journalist. You're covering the game.
Yeah. But that aside, I have my favorites on the national level. I've been a suffering Mets fan for many, many years when they first started in 1962.
Right.
And I've been a Notre Dame fan for life. And Ron Powlus, of course, the former great quarterback at Berwick and at Notre Dame, who's now working at Notre Dame, he was nice enough to write the foreword for the book.
Very good.
Yeah, we have a family connection because Ron's dad, who unfortunately died just a couple of years ago, was a tremendous athlete at Nescopeck High School before their jointure with Berwick. And he was a very good basketball player, coached by my dad at Nescopeck. So we've had that connection.
That's pretty exciting. And I forgot your dad was a coach, because people have told me that over the years.
Yep. Yeah, he was. Not a good enough coach, as I point out in the book. Not a good enough coach to make an athlete out of me, but...
He made a sportscaster, which is okay. We're kind of happy with that.
Yes. Yeah, I knew I wanted to get involved somehow, and I thought about being a sports writer, and I have done some writing prior to this book, but I'm glad I chose the route that I did.
Is there anything here about your school years at all? I mean, your teaching experience?
Not too much. That could be a separate book. There's enough in that. Yeah, I was very, very fortunate because after college, while I was at Bloomsburg State College, I student taught at Southern Columbia, and I had a great experience. My advisor, Dorothy Davis, was a tremendous mentor. And when a job opened up, she was influential in helping me get the full-time job there. And I was there for 32 years and enjoyed it a great deal. And it was really, really difficult juggling the two jobs. I mean, you come back from Millersville at 1 a.m. on a Wednesday, and the next day you're up teaching school, and you're correcting papers on the team bus and stuff like that. But somehow it all worked, and now it's a little more relaxing.
Some of you former students will go back and look at those papers and go, was he in Millersville till 1 o'clock in the morning? Maybe I did get an A on that after
I'll bet you they're going through this with red pens, looking for something.
Looking for something like that.
The revenge.
Where can we get this book?
Oh, we get a number of places in this area. In Bloomsburg, the WHLM Studios, which are right downtown. Bloom Health and Fitness, which is on Old Berwick Road. Turkey Hill Brewing, one of my favorite stops. Central Road, Bloomsburg. In Berwick, 2 places downtown. Harry's Sporting Goods, Mason's Monogram Services. 1 place in Danville, the Pine Barn Inn.
Okay. And
in the guidance office at Southern Club Area High School. And then they can also, there's a website, bestseatdoyle7@gmail.com. bestseatdoyle7@gmail.com. If they email me at that site, I will put the book in the mail for them.
that sounds good too.
Sign it if they want.
And I think now, by 48 years in local sports broadcasting, the best seat in the house. The final question is, why should somebody buy this?
Well, if you're a local sports fan, I think you should, because there's a lot of stuff, some of which is going to be forgotten, unfortunately, but won't be if you buy this book and stay with it. Also, in addition to the text, I went through, I had actually a shoebox full of cassettes of games, and we selected audio clips from those and came up with 74 audio clips that are there. And with the book, you get a bookmark, and on the bookmark, it lists an address on YouTube where you go and you can hear all those cuts.
Miller back to throw, nothing there. He has to scramble. He stops. He throws to Johnson for touchdown.
So not only are you able to read about some of the things that happen, but you'll be able to hear them as well.
So you made this like a total interactive experience.
Yes.
It's very exciting.
Yes.
For a guy who's, and we'll have to mention, you can admit it now, he's not very technically savvy, never really has.
No, I have the last cassette player in Bloomsburg.
You still got that too. Just looking at computers, like, that's not my thing. So for Jim to actually make this something available online, that's a big deal.
Yes, well, my nephew Patrick, and who did all this, and then his wife Gwen, who did the cover design, so I got a lot of help.
That's great.
A lot of help.
I'll tell you what. It's called The Best Seat in the House, 48 years in local sports broadcasting by local sports legend icon, Jim Doyle. And we do appreciate you being here, and best of luck with this. And
Thanks, Doug.
get a copy. They're not real expensive either, and it's an excellent read. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again after later.